single payer, do you really need it just at the national level, or can you start at the local level? Have really blue states like California pass single payer in that state and see if it works and have that grow and grow? Well, good news, California was trying to do that right now. How did it turn out? Well, let's bring on Walker Bragman. He wrote a piece about this at the Daily Poster. And Walker, first, tell us what AB 1400 is, and then we'll get to its fate.
Thanks for having me on. So AB 1400 is an assembly bill that would have established the framework for a single payer system in the state of California. And that would have been accompanied by a constitutional amendment ballot measure to set up the funding for that framework.
Okay, so, well, I mean, it's a very blue state, super majorities in Congress, and luckily you got a Democratic governor, Gavin Newsom. Did Gavin Newsom make any promises on the campaign trail about single payer in California?
That he did. In 2018 on the campaign trail, Newsom was quoted saying he's tired of people who just make empty promises on single payer, and that those comments won him the support of the California Nurses Union. So yeah, he's on record supporting single payer.
So very blue state, super majorities in the legislature, and a Democratic governor who is very clearly on the record in favor of doing, not only doing it, but saying he's tired of the empty talk of people who don't do it. So I'm sure it must have passed. Today we got news on it. What was the news?
It did not pass. Yeah, it did not pass. California has been fighting to create a single payer system for many years, and just haven't been able to get it across the finish line. This is the second time it's happened with Democratic supermajorities in the Assembly and the Senate. And I think it really speaks to the power of the state insurance industry and the groups that were opposing this measure. I mean, these are groups that are heavily tied in with the Democratic Party, donating millions of dollars to the Democratic Party, including Speaker Rendon and Gavin Newsom himself, his inaugural committee. Yeah, it's really bad. I mean, if you think about it, I think about it in these terms. We are 2 years into a deadly pandemic that's killed like 900,000 Americans, and the bluest state in the country can't pass a single payer system because the business interests opposed to it are too powerful and have their hooks too deeply in the state Democratic Party. I call that a crisis of democracy.
Yeah. So Walker, no one else does. In terms of the LA Times, San Francisco Chronicle, etc. Maybe I'm wrong. I haven't read all their articles, but I have not seen them raise the alarm on this yet. They seem to think apparently these legislators who all promised single payer had reasonable and principled conversations with one another, and then magically decided that they were full of crap earlier, and you shouldn't listen to their earlier version of themselves. And now they've found Jesus, which is apparently corporate Jesus. But golly gee, none of the reporters can figure out why it happened. Okay, so now you have this conspiratorial theory that it might have been the donors. Well, how much? I mean, from what I hear, Walker, the reason that sounds conspiratorial is that donors, number one, donors only affect Republicans. Democrats are immune from donors, is what I hear. That's what the mainstream media tells me. And number two, I mean, donors, what are we talking about? $5, $10? Did anybody get up to $200? Well, how much money did they give the Democrats that it might influence them?
So let's take this back to 2017. The International Business Times reported that when the single payer measure was up in 2017 and did not pan out, the bill passed the Senate, but then Speaker Rendon did not bring it up for a vote in the House. The reason that he cited was he said that there were problems with it, including financing. Incidentally, that's the same issue that we're dealing with now. So you've had years to deal with it and you haven't. Anyway, so we're talking about $1.2 million from groups that were on record opposing the measure back in 2017. Since 2012, those groups had donated $1.2 million to the state Democratic Party, including $82,000 directly to Speaker Rendon himself. Now, this time around, I mean, Blue Shield of California has a long-standing relationship with Governor Gavin Newsom, going back to 2005. The company donated at least $99,000 to Newsom's campaign since 2010, which it doesn't sound like a lot of money. But then you take into account the behested payments that they've made to his charitable causes, which go up into the millions. So we're dealing with a lot of money here. There's a lot of money from these companies that is going into the Democratic Party, into Democratic Assembly members, into the governor. This is not a story of principled opposition discovering that, oh, we've got this financing issue that we've had years to take care of and just haven't figured out yet. This is a story of how money is winning at the state level, at the national level, at the local level. Money talks in America. That's the direction, that's the story here.
Any reporter that doesn't understand that politicians are absolutely addicted to donor money is an idiot and not an actual reporter. That doesn't know a thing about politics. Like they spent a minute with a politician. The minute you get in a room with a politician, they'll tell you because they can't help it. They're like, money, I want the money. Do you have money? I want money, okay? It's so goddamn obvious. $1.2 million, you're a reporter, Walker, an actual one.
That was 2017. So Blue Shield of California gave $100,000 to Newsom's inaugural fund. Like that's legal.
Yeah, Walker, whether it's $100,000 or $89,000 or $1.2 million, do you think that giant corporations give that money for charity? No, of course they don't give it for charity. Of course they give it to buy politicians. In your experience, are Democratic politicians, as opposed to Republicans, angels and immune from being affected by millions of dollars?
No, I don't think anybody's immune from being affected by millions of dollars.
Yeah, well, that's weird. That just made you instantly one of the top reporters in the country, because apparently every other reporter can't figure it out. They're like, oh, millions of dollars. They're Democrats. Now, of course, they're not going to be affected by that. So everybody can read the articles today as to why AB 1400 lost. Almost none of them will mention the real reason. 99% of the reason is the donor money. It's not at all complicated. Walker solved it. Okay.
Well, I have to say this: the Sacramento Bee actually did their editorial board put out a story about how this was a big moment for Newsom. Was he going to stick with his campaign promise, or was he going to go with the donors? I mean, this is an open secret. People know. No, but so first of all, credit where credit is due. If God bless, I'll take it. Right? I'd be thrilled if they actually did their jobs. Right? But you mentioned it because it's an obvious exception, right? Where they mentioned, hey, is he going to do what he promised? By the way, spoiler alert, the answer is always no for a corporate Democrat. They promise something, you bet as much money as you have that they're not gonna do it. Unless you're in a secret donor meeting at French Laundry, in which case they will deliver everything they promised. So that's just a fact. And it got proven again on Monday when they killed it. And so Gavin Newsom is a star in the Democratic Party because he's attractive and he survived an insane recall effort by the Republicans that had no chance of working in California. Blue Shield also helped him through that.
Oh, Blue Shield gave him money. Oh, what a big surprise that is.
Yeah, no, it's really. I mean, look, this in 1976, the Supreme Court opened the floodgates for corporate money or corporate interests to start flooding our elections. In Buckley versus Vallejo, that was the case where they ruled that individual outside spending, not coordinated with a candidate or campaign, that was okay. Couldn't lead to corruption or even the appearance of it. And based on that ruling, after that came in 2010, you get the Citizens United ruling, and then the district court ruling in Speech Now. So this is, I mean, we have unleashed big money in this country, and our politics have suffered for it. Our institutions have become less effective, less responsive to people. And that goes down right down to the state level. I mean, this is the bluest state in the country.
Yeah, no, you're much more polite than I am. They haven't suffered; they're destroyed. There isn't the government is not less responsive; it's completely unresponsive to the people. 0%, none. The Democratic leadership will never do what they say. Never. It's a lie. We tell you ahead of time that it is. So that's going to lead me to my last question. So, is there any hope for single payer in one of the bluest states with a supermajority and Democrats running everything? My guess is there's no way in hell that those corrupt Democrats like Gavin Newsom will ever do it. They'd rather take the $1 million every single time. So are we kidding ourselves? Is there any hope here? Or by the way, can you do a ballot measure to get around them? Because in order for anything that helps the voters pass in California, it's got to be a ballot measure because the politicians are so corrupt that they're completely hopeless.
You could do a ballot measure. That is a good idea. Gosh, I don't know. I mean, the cynic in me agrees with you and says these people will never do anything. They don't want to do anything. They don't care. They're not responsive. On the other hand, the part that sort of keeps me going says that if enough people get out there in the streets and are demanding change, then at some point, somewhere down the line, an idea whose time has come will happen.
No, there's only one way. There's only one way. You have to vote against, you have to primary every Democratic incumbent, okay?
Well, I definitely agree with you there.
Yeah, and so, yeah, look, there's just Democrats, there's some progressives in California. So, okay, do your research. But honestly, if you voted against every Democratic incumbent in a primary, you'll help save the country. You can't vote for the monsters on the right wing, they're fascist, right? So people pretend there's no option. That's not true. There's a perfectly good option. It's called a primary. It's an election just like a general election. You go there, you find whoever's the incumbent and you vote against them because they're never gonna do it, ever, ever, ever. The only way that they would ever pay attention is not if you're in the streets or if you sent an email or etc. The only way that they're gonna do it is if you vote them out of office and you put in someone that will. And if they don't, you vote them out of office. And you keep doing it until you wipe the party clean of all these people. Of course, the other thing you need is real reporters like Walker Bragman and real journalists like at thedailyposter.com to call it what it is. And look, you gave the facts and I'll put the name to it. Gavin Newsom is definitely corrupt. So have the courage to say it, have the courage to cover the issue, but there's no chance mainstream media will do that because they love the corruption. So that's the situation we are in America.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, especially today with this pandemic, I think it's really sort of just exposed everything, right? Like the dysfunction that you're seeing, this has been there all along. It's just now it's more apparent because the need for it to function better is so pressing. Yeah. I definitely think that it's important to expose it. I think it's important to take action and vote these people out and get primary challengers and whatnot. It's very hard and it's a hard road to go down because you lose more than you win. Yeah, and that's the nature of politics until you don't.
Until you don't, right? That's life in the big city. Plus, the only reason we lose is because of the mainstream media. Because I don't say that because I agree with progressives. I say that because of the polling. The Democratic voters are incredibly progressive, but they don't know who the progressives are. The mainstream media craps all over the progressives, fluffs up the corporate Democrats. They're liars on a mass scale. Read the Daily Poster, stop reading the crap that passes for so-called journalism, mainstream media. And by the way, what Walker alluded to there, in terms of Supreme Court decisions that allowed the corruption. It's a giant part of my book. You can pre-order now, justicescomingbook.com. You got to put book in there, justicescomingbook.com. And meanwhile, read Walker's piece on this. It's brilliant. It gives you the actual facts at dailyposter.com. Walker, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.